Gonna build a mountain from a little hill.
Evening folks, this is Best in Slot with an update roundup for Planet Zoo, because we've had two brand new pieces of fairly important information emerging across this past week or so. I was unfortunately away for a few days earlier this week, so I couldn't cover the information straight away, but I'm back now and I bring news with me. So, first things first, we got an image earlier this week, a mystery kind of thing, where we got this shot of the terrarium, an empty terrarium, and a question about the animal that it may contain, bearing in mind that Monday was indeed was it Monday? Wednesday? Wednesday was World Lizard Day, I believe. Anyways, just before we move on, I do want to point out the textures in the terrarium here and here. They do look a little bit better quality than maybe we've seen in the past. It is worth always remembering that Planet Zoo is currently not even in a beta state. It is literally an alpha. I know we're only a few months away from release, like 2.5 months at this point in time. The game comes out on the 5th of November. But it is still an alpha. Things are going to change. We saw that in particular with the P-file. The image we saw was just not indicative of the final quality at all. Not to say that all problems we see will be fixed, but, you know, that it could be. Some things will change, some things will inevitably be fixed prior to release. Anyways, the animal was revealed via a video to be a green iguana. The video has basically no animations whatsoever, so I'm going to play that for you very quickly right now, and then I'm going to move on. Move on we shall to this lovely image here of this green iguana. It's a little easier to look at this one than the video. The video's lovely, but the iguana literally does nothing. You know, maybe it just doesn't have all its animations yet. As I say, we're on an alpha. So here it is. I will say the tree again goes back to those old terrarium problems where the texture quality is just very, very poor, but I don't know how much that's going to matter. I talk to a lot of people about the terrariums. They're very important to me personally because they're always my favourite part of a zoo. I love reptile houses and insect houses and stuff like that, and would spend a lot of time in my game perfecting these. For a lot of people, their focus is much more on the other animals, on your major animals, on your outside animals, so they care less. And I feel like people's reaction to the limitations of the terrarium system really do depend on how much time you would typically spend looking after those animals. But hey, moving on. So this is our green iguana, and it's a pretty nice one. It's got all the telltale green iguana signs. It's got this kind of mottling on the front of the face. It's got the spikes descending along the back. It's got the stripes along the body, kind of hazy and hardly there at the top, and then they get thicker and thicker and thicker until they become just like a pure banding along the tail. I do have one primary problem with the design, however, which I'm going to bring up right now. Let's shift him over to the left and bring up a couple of comparison images. Oh no, I left off a bit. I'm sorry. So I had to really struggle to find a green iguana that looks like the one we've been presented to. Most green iguanas don't really look like this. I mean, they do come in a variety of colours and shades and all this kind of stuff. But the problem with the Planet Zoo one is the green is very uniform all the way down the body. It's just green, 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 like a really vivid green. In the vast majority of iguanas, there's a lot of mottling, there's a lot of different colours, there's a lot of lighter shades coming in there, there's some oranges coming in there. You can see in this iguana on the right in particular, the mottling on the face comes all the way down here. There's these sort of brownish shades along the stripes here, blah, 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 blah. And like all iguanas have this, but loads of green iguanas in particular have all these different colours coming in. Not necessarily the most exciting colours, but they do tend to break up this sort of solid green look that we're getting on the left-hand side. Now I did find this little guy on the bottom right. And he does look more similar. You can see the similarities here. We've got the bigger spikes at the top. We've got the pure green colour, the little bit of blackness on the front of the snout, and stuff like that. But again, if you look down to the tail, you can see that green is starting to fade. You can see these other kind of sort of weird shapes and spots of sort of faded skin and scales sort of coming in at certain points. I think that's what it's missing right now. I think it could be pushed just a little bit better if it had a little bit more variation in skin colouring. I really, really like it. I think it's a great looking animal. I much prefer it to the Antillean iguana that we've already seen. Sorry, I just punched my desk if you heard that. I do much prefer it to the Antillean iguana. I just think it could be even better. That's not to say it's bad. I'm just nitpicking a little bit because, you know, at the end of the day, this is what we've got to go off right now. We may as well take a look at the animals presented to us. Anyway, that's it for the green iguana. We are going to move on to the other new update of the week, which was a reference to the campaign mode. Really the first proper official thing we've heard about the campaign mode. So, We got this big article about it. I will link that down below, but I'm going to read out and go through the entire thing right here with you guys. Anyway, so in Planet Zoo's career mode, you will go on a trip around the world with new characters, exciting objectives, and lots of decisions that can impact the success of your zoos. There's a bunch of unique scenarios that follow along a beautiful and adventurous story written by Graham Goring, and as it's part of the Planet universe, there will be loads of light-hearted humour and heartwarming moments. Now, we did already know we were going to be travelling across the globe for this campaign. It kind of made sense, right? You couldn't stay in one location anyway. I suspect the idea is you're going to be going across the globe. Initially, you're going to be given like very basic starter zoos and told to expand them. Maybe later on you'll have to save failing zoos and stuff like that, and then you'll have to maybe start near enough from scratch towards the end. You know, give the player more and more control as you go through the campaign. I hope they do have a couple of missions that really do give the player some freedom in the way they approach their missions. One of my personal biggest problems with Jurassic World Evolution's campaign was that every single map in the game had pre-built buildings, which sounds fine, but it limits creativity, it limits your decision-making process. And by the end of the game, it isn't necessary. Unless your mission is literally to like revitalize a dying zoo, I don't think every mission needs to give us buildings. That's my opinion. Anywho, so new characters, we're going to meet a couple of those today. That's what the main focus of this is. And objectives we'll talk about in a little bit as well. Just before we move on, I do want to... This is just a weird little thing I just noticed myself. I don't know if anyone's picked up on this, but Graham Goring, I was curious, right? So I did some, you know, it's a direct link, so it links to Graham Goring's IMDb page. And I'll bring that up right now. So that's Graham Goring, his IMDb. Does anybody notice anything strange? Not strange, but just a little coincidental here. So Graham Goring, all he's written, he's only been a writer for 6 years or something. All he's been writing is Lego games, right? Lego City Undercover, Lego Movie, Lego Jurassic World he wrote, Dimensions, Star Wars Force Awakens, and recently the Ninjago movie video game. He writes for Lego games, okay? The Frontier leak that was posted a few months back on 4chan, which has been widely proven to be true, if I recall correctly, it made a reference to a Lego game. People were a little confused. Why would Frontier be involved in Lego in any way whatsoever? I'm not saying this is anything other than a coincidence. 99% sure it's a coincidence. I just found it a little odd that the writer for Planet Zoo just happens to be one who has exclusively worked in Lego games in the past and has now gone to Frontier, who have recently been leaked to be working or developing some form of Lego game. Anyways, I'll move on now. I just thought it was interesting. So, just before we get started on the characters, it also says, this is interesting, each scenario has its own unique challenges determined by the continent you're in, the biome you're utilising, the weather, the temperature, and of course animal availability. Animal availability. You're not going to get every animal available to you at the start of the game. That disappoints some people sometimes, but at the end of the day it's a campaign, it's involved with unlocks, it's involved with progression, and if you get every animal, all the 5-star animals, let's say, at the start of the game, that does remove it a little bit. I'm okay with how Jurassic World Evolution handled it, wherein each new island gave you access to new animals, new dinosaurs. If Planet Zoo does it the same way, you've got to complete these missions to unlock those animals, that would be perfectly fine. There will be goals for you to achieve, and you'll get medals, seemingly bronze, silver and gold, which contain gameplay objectives that vary in difficulty depending on how far you've progressed through the story. There's a lot of unique objectives to get stuck into. Each scenario will open up with an introduction to your new surroundings by a character. In the first part of the story, you'll mainly be interacting with Bernhard, Bernie Goodwin and Nancy Jones, who are the two we will meet in a moment. Very British names. So, I suspect again it's similar to Evolution in that you're going to have a main mission to achieve, but then it does sound like you're going to get, I don't want to call them contracts, but little side quests, for example, little objectives that you will get as you go along, and those objectives will be tiered in terms of what they'll give you. So you can complete them to a bronze level, you can complete them to a silver level, and to a gold level. I don't feel like that's a reward, more like a, you know, let's say your mission is to breed a lion, right? Maybe the gold is to breed 10 lions. That's the kind of thing I'm seeing, rather than, you know, breed as many lions as you can in 10 minutes. If you hit this number, you'll get gold. If you hit this number, you'll get silver. It could be either way, but that's the direction I would personally be leaning in. We really don't have much information here, but next week is Gamescom. Hopefully we'll figure out a lot then. Let's meet our first character. This is Bernhard. Bernie Goodwin. Look at that owl mug. Everybody who sees this is like, I want the owl mug. I need the owl mug. I'm hoping when I go to Gamescom, Frontier are like selling these owl mugs. I want the owl mug. And the hat. I want the hat. Anyways, moving on. That's Bernie. He is a zoo owner. Let's find out about Bernie. Bernhard is the owner of several... Do we want to say this like Bernie? Bernhard is the owner of several zoos and has made it his life's work to use them to drive positive change, saving endangered species and increasing animal welfare around the world. He is a warm and humorous character. He loves dad jokes, I mean who doesn't, who cares deeply for all people and animals alike. He sees the good in almost everyone he meets and wants to inspire others to follow his path. Despite his age, he has the energy and zest for life of a man 20 years his junior. Well, how old are you, Bernie? He must be like 60s, 70s anyway, so he's still pretty old. Right, so that's Bernhard. He's just a good guy. It seems... So, your early missions, you're going to be given your tasks and your directives by Bernie. You're going to be given them by the person we're going to meet in a minute, Nancy. How that progresses later into the game is going to be interesting. At the moment, we don't have any unsavoury characters, you know, like we had Dr. Wu in Jurassic World Evolution, for example. The better comparison will be the Planet Coaster campaign, but by all accounts, the Planet Coaster campaign wasn't very good. So I think Frontier are aware of that. We're going to actually address that in a moment as well. It's just going to be interesting to see how far these characters go. It's definitely going to be a very humorous and light-hearted story, but that doesn't mean you can't have a villain. You know, Disney films, all Disney films have a villain, so it'll be interesting to see if we do work or compete against somebody else. Maybe it'll be like Pokemon and there'll be a rival zoo person who makes bad zoos with bad animals and you have to save them or something. I don't know. Anyway, so that's Bernie. Bernie's a lovely lad. And I suspect he's going to be the father figure and kind of lead us through the entire game. Maybe he'll give you less missions as you go further on, but I think he'll always be there as like the sounding board for advice and stuff like that. Bernhard is followed by Nancy. Nancy isn't as nice as Bernhard. You can tell by her face. She has a very pointy nose. Look at Bernhard. Bernhard's got a nice big soft nose. Nancy's is pointy. That means she's bad. Nancy has worked with Bernie for over 30 years and is a no-nonsense woman with a dry sense of humour. Nancy's first job as a zookeeper was actually at one of Bernie's zoos. She's gotten to where she is through hard work, common sense and passion for her job. A talent Bernhard quickly recognised, leading him to promote her to head zookeeper, meaning she now leads the teams and expects them to have the same high standards as she does. Of course, there's more characters and much more to the story, but we don't want to spoil all the fun. So, if Bernie leads you in, then when it comes to dealing with staff and all that, I suspect Nancy pops up and is like, alright boy, I'm gonna... And she'll tell you how to handle your staff and stuff like that. And if you mishandle your zookeeping, rather than your park management in general, maybe Nancy's going to be the one, kind of like, again, I'm going to bring it back to Evolution, I apologise. If your dinosaurs are starving in Evolution, Claire Deering at all points in the game would pop up and tell you you're a terrible person. Maybe Nancy will be the equivalent for if you're mistreating your animals or your staff, and Bernhard would do the equivalent if you're losing guests or charging too much money, stuff like that. You know, people who will pop up continuously, and of course new characters will come in as well. We did get one final bit of closing message. Our first few scenarios, so scenarios essentially, I'm assuming, are the world missions. Now, whether we get multiple scenarios per map per region, we don't know. Maybe you'll have multiple missions to work through per thing. Maybe you'll just have one big overarching goal. We'll be focused on easing you into the game. As part of the feedback we've received from Planet Coaster was the need for more tutorials. The team has been especially focused on your initial experience and will hope you'll like the change of pace, which suggests the start of the game is going to be very easygoing and relaxed, which is, you know, fine. We've also included they've included subtitles. I don't know why that's like post-worthy. So yeah, it sounds like the campaign has been given quite a lot more attention than Planet Coaster, which is probably a good thing. I did not hear great things about Planet Coaster's campaign in general. It's going to be easy to get into. It's going to be very tutorialized initially. Hopefully there'll be a way to skip that or speed up the process if you've already done it before. You know, you don't want to be starting the campaign and going through a very slow tutorial all over again, but doing it once really isn't that big a deal at all. Finally then, for our first look at our career mode, be sure to tune in to our Gamescom gameplay demo on Tuesday the 20th of August at 7 PM BST over on youtube.com/PlanetZooGame. We'll be showing off a section of our first tutorial and introduce you to Bernie and Nancy. There will be loads more news at Gamescom, so keep your eyes peeled on our official channels and forums for all the latest news. So, before anybody, I believe, is live streaming the game, Frontier are going to do a live stream themselves on Planet Zoo Game, on youtube.com/Planet Zoo Game. I think it's a live stream. I think so, on Tuesday. So keep an eye out for that. I will be watching that from Gamescom, I assume. Definitely keep an eye out for that and watch that on Tuesday night. But bear in mind, on Wednesday and Thursday, I'll be streaming right here on the Best in Slot channel. You can check that out in my video from the other day. Anyways, career mode, Iguana, it's good stuff. It's exciting. Hopefully we find out a lot more about the career mode next week. I imagine we're only going to be doing maybe our first few scenarios suggests that each map section definitely has multiple scenarios, right? You're not going to have first few scenarios tutorial, but you've gone from like China to Russia to Azerbaijan. No, it'll be a nice little British zoo, and you'll get a few different scenarios at the start, and you'll have to complete them to certain levels. Now, whether the bronze, silver, gold levels are incentivized enough, again, is going to be very important. I'm very curious to see what that's like. But if you're anything like me, you're going to want gold and everything. I'm hoping maybe what it'll be like is you can replay each section of the game individually. If you imagine an evolution going back between different islands, and what you'll be able to do is restart and try to get gold again or something like that, and then from the main screen you'll be able to see if you got max gold medals on each part of the game. You know, a lot of us are fairly completionist and like to finish absolutely everything, and if you could get a little reward for maxing out your golds, that'd be cool too. Done. I've been blathering on for way longer than anticipated. Let me know what you think about the Iguana and the campaign mode down below. I may do a video on Tuesday night, but if I do, it will literally be a vlog recorded on my phone, because again, I'll be in Gamescom, I'm not going to be able to record, but I might do my reaction to the gameplay demo, and then Wednesday live stream, Thursday double live stream, Friday I'm back home and we'll get back to our usual content. Sound like a plan? Sound like a plan. Thank you for joining me. Cheers, much love as always. Bye bye. Hey folks, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you want to help support me a little bit more, you can do so at patreon.com/bestinslot. There's a link in the description down below. Every little really does help in times like these, but it's not at all expected, and by just watching the video you've already helped me out massively, and it makes you a pretty cool person, so well done you. Thanks for joining me either way, I'll see you next time.